there, my name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path. Thank you so much for joining me for the Bead Crochet Workshop. So with this workshop, you should have gotten a bead crochet workbook, and this is what we'll actually be talking through and learning from as we get started to bead crochet. So in the video today, we are going to be talking about the basics of getting started with bead crochet. Bead crochet encompasses so many neat techniques and patterns that you can do, but we want to get started with just the basics. We want to learn the basic stitch and how to finish it off so that we can make beautiful crochet jewelry. So one of the first things we need to talk about is your actual materials that you are going to need. So you're going to find this on page 2 of your booklet. This is where we're going to get started. But before we actually start, I kind of want to tell you my journey into bead crochet. So many years ago, gosh, I guess I'm working on 10 or 11 years ago now, I had a friend who owned a bead store in Campobello, South Carolina. Her name was Jo Harrison. She was the one who taught me how to bead crochet. And I'll never forget Jo's words. She said, "Kelly, you'll love bead crochet once you get started, but until you completely understand it, you're gonna hate it." And it was the truth. Until I completely understood the stitch, I understood how to hold my thread, I understood the right materials that I was gonna need, and I got a lot of practice, I did not like it. But once I did all of that, I loved it, and I still do bead crochet to this day. The biggest thing that you need to understand about bead crochet is, like I just said, it's going to take a lot of practice. Jo told me it's going to take you about 12 to 15 hours of just practice to get the stitch and understand it and be able to start and finish off your pieces. So don't jump in thinking that you are going to do this first project really quickly and it's going to be a breeze. Because if you go in thinking like that, you're going to get really frustrated. I've only had very few who have just jumped in and they've got it. But even then, it's taken them a lot of practice to really get it. So just be aware of that. So on page 2, the first thing we want to talk about is your crochet hooks. This is going to be one of the essential components for getting and understanding bead crochet. One of the best crochet hooks is a crochet hook by Susan Bates. It is a very thin cylinder hook. This is a size 6 1.6 millimeter hook. Now this should have came, if you bought the actual workshop box, this would have came in your box. This is a really great hook to use, especially when you're going to be using crochet thread with size 8 seed beads. I also really like the Clover hook. This is a number 2 1.50 millimeter. So they're very similar in their sizes, except for this one actually already has a really nice thumb grip to hold on to as you work. Now, if you learn to do bead crochet and you practice it a lot, your fingers and your hands are going to get really tired. One of the things that will help this is actually a crochet hook cushion. Now this is a larger size cushion. It said this will fit a 3 millimeter to a 6 millimeter hook. So the way that we kind of got by with that on to our hooks, it has a small hole in it, but what we did was we took, when you actually take it out of the pack, we wrapped a what's the word I'm looking for? A rubber band around some of the hook. So when we slid this on there, the rubber band helps to hold your piece in place. And then this allows you to have a really nice grip as you are learning to crochet. So when I did the bead crochet workshop in my store, this was the game changer for some people. They really like these. So we sell these on our website, and if you bought the workshop box, one of these came in your box. So that will really help you with your hooks. I also in the workshop box give you a great tutorial for your own little DIY holder if you you know, don't want to use this, and it's a YouTube link, and it's actually on page 2 of your packet. So just be aware of that. I do sell both of these in my store, as well as some other brands. Another one that I like to use is it's by the Crochet Dude, D-U-D-E. It's a number 6, a 1.8 millimeter. So all 3 of these that I just mentioned are going to be really, really good when you're using like a cotton thread and you're using size 8 seed beads. Understand that if you go down or up in beads, it'll work good for an 11, but like I say, if you go to a 15 or something smaller, or you go up to like a size 6 seed bead, you're gonna have to switch the size hooks you use, because you will probably have to switch the size cording that you use as well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So just be aware that for our basic bead crochet, the number 6 1.6 millimeter or the number 2 1.5 millimeter are going to be what you need. Now, you may ask, what are we going to string these on? Well, there are a lot of different things that you can string these on. My favorite, and especially for our basic piece like we're going to do, is this DMC cotton thread. This is a number 8. You can also use a number 6, but this works really great with our crochet hooks and our size 8 seed beads. So this is what I suggest. We sell a spool of this on our website. It's less than $3, and it will do a lot of your projects. It comes in a lot of nice colors, but I highly recommend that your first bead crochet, or even your first few bead crochet projects, you use a lighter color thread. Do not go with a dark brown or a black, because you will pull your hair out trying to see it if you drop a stitch, which I will show you later on in the video. So just be aware of that. Another thing that you can use, and I don't suggest this for using size 8 seed beads, but it's this Miyuki bead crochet thread. It comes on spools like this. They're variegated colors. They also have a white color. This is a nice thread. It's a 167 DTEX size thread, but it's going to be good for your size 11 and your size 15 seed beads. I don't recommend that you use this with your size 8 seed beads. Another one that I actually tried was this thin, ultra thin S-Lon cord. I actually tried it on this sample here. The biggest thing with this cord, it's waxed. So I really felt like, even me as someone who I feel like has had a lot of practice with bead crochet, I really felt like I was fighting with the cord, because as I was trying to crochet, my beads were sliding down instead of kind of staying in place as they do with this cotton cord. So I feel like, number one, I felt like I was fighting with it, and number two, it came up with a much stiffer tube than one with my cotton thread. So I don't know if you can kind of see. I wish you could, you know, reach right through and feel this, but the blue is much stiffer than this purple pink color here. So that's another thing to kind of be aware of. You can use the ultra thin S-Lon, but just be aware that it's going to yield a stiffer finished piece. So that may you know, make a difference to you. So today we are going to be using size 8 seed beads. It's best if your seed beads can be 6 different colors, and it's best if those colors are very different from each other, so that you can really see what you're doing and you can see where those beads are at. If you get colors that are very similar to each other, when you start going around and crocheting, you're not going to know where you started and ended a row, and that's really not important if you're, just, basic crocheting, but when you're getting started, that's kind of a big deal because you want to know where you started and where you stopped. So that's really, really helpful if they're different colors. Now, after you've done your first one, you can use 3 colors, 2 colors, whatever. But on your first one, I highly suggest 6 different colors until you're very comfortable with the stitch and understanding where each stitch is going to go. The next thing you're going to need is a needle. So for this project, we're going to use a big eye needle. The big eye needle is a double pointed needle and it is split all the way through the center of the bead. This will allow us to be able to thread our cotton thread onto this needle so that we can thread our beads onto our cord. It'll also help us at the very end of the project if we want to do a hidden join, which means we would join the 2 ends and you wouldn't know where it stopped and where it started. That needle is going to help you there as well. Now, I also like to use like a tapestry needle or upholstery needle. It's a little bit of a thicker needle and it has a little bit of a larger head and eye to it. This is really, really nice when you're using your size 8 seed beads because the 8s will go over the head of it. And like I said, it's a thicker needle and it really, really helps you at the end of your project. So if you have access to one of these, I highly suggest that needle. Another thing you may want to think about is how you want to actually work with your thread. A lot of people try to thread all of their beads onto their cotton little piece that you have here, and they will just wrap the beads around it. The only problem that I have with that is I personally like to travel with my bead crochet pieces. I throw this into a bag, and that way if I'm waiting on my husband or my little boy or somewhere just out town and I'm having to wait, I'll pull it out and do some crochet while I'm waiting to kill some time instead of being on my phone or tablet. So I like to use a bobbin. This is a silicone bobbin, and if you pop it like this, the top pops up. And this allows you to be able to roll all of your thread onto the bobbin with your beads, and then when you're finished or you have to stop, you do that and it closes everything up inside the bobbin so that you don't have to worry about anything falling off or getting tangled like it might here if you tried to travel with this. These are really inexpensive, and the great thing is if you bought the workshop box, you got one of these in your workshop box. So we will talk in just a minute about how much thread we need and how to actually add all of this. One of the final tools I would suggest is a beading awl, specifically the Tulip beading awl. The awl is a very sharp pointed tool, and the great thing about the Tulip awl is it's very, very skinny here at the top and it gets bigger to the back. This is going to come in really handy if you drop a stitch, because you'll be able to put this in the inside of your tube and pull that stitch out. It's also going to help you if you're doing a patterned piece where you have to pick up beads in a specific order and you mess up. You'll be able to take this, put it inside the bead and push it really hard, and it will actually pop your bead without messing up your thread. So the Tulip awl is going to be one of the last little pieces that I really highly suggest as far as your tools. Now, when we get ready to finish our piece, one of the great things is there are lots of ways to finish it off. But one of the really good things is that you can either do what I'm going to show you in the video, a hidden join, which I've already explained, and the other one is a bead cap or a cord end. I have tested, and my absolute favorite cord end for the bead crochet using size 8 seed beads, 6 beads in the round, are these 12 by 16 millimeter cord caps. So it is hollow on the inside. then it is really nice and silver, and it has an open loop here at the top. So you can add chain, you can add a clasp, whatever you want to. Because for me, on the blue one, I'm actually going to add chain to each side and just wear it as a necklace. So I wouldn't necessarily have to put my bead work all the way around. So the 12 by 16 caps work really great. Also, I have a 14 by 11 millimeter cap. It works good as well. The only thing with the 14 by 11 is you really kind of have to work your beads into the cap, but the 14 by 11 will work as well. But the 12 by 16 is my favorite. Now, if you're going to use an end cap like this, you'll also want to have some E6000 glue handy. The E6000 glue we will actually put on the inside of our little cone here, or our end cap. Excuse me. And what we'll do is we'll pull it in there, we'll fill it pretty full, and then that way, when we finish off our crochet piece, and I'll show you how to do that, we slide the tube inside of it, and it's a perfect fit for our crochet tube that we're going to be making with these size 8 seed beads. So we do sell both of those sizes of end caps on my website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about how we will measure for our project. The really easy thing, if you're going to make a necklace, if you want to make a 16-inch necklace, then you know that you're going to have 16 inches of your beadwork. If you're going to make something like a bangle, you will want to measure the biggest part of your hand here. Okay, so you'll be measuring this, and that will tell you the inside diameter of piece that you're going to need. Inside diameter simply means that when the two ends are together like this, it should be this size. This is the inside diameter. You never, especially when you make a tube like this, you don't want to put this next to a regular ruler and measure it out that way and finish off your piece without actually either testing it over your hand or measuring that inside diameter. The tube affects the sizing because of the larger size of the tube. So I might lay this down onto a ruler and it'll say that it's 7.5 inches whatsoever, whatever. But when you actually put it on, it's not going to be that big because this inside diameter is a lot smaller. And that's what you want to be concerned with, is that inside diameter size of your tube. So that is just kind of the basic how you will measure out your piece. Now, you have to understand that no matter how tight of a stitcher you are, how loose of a stitcher you are, over time, your piece will expand a little bit and stretch a little bit. That is because if you're going to make a bangle and you're going to be rolling it on and off your hand, that is going to, affect the stretch a little bit. And if you're wearing it, just the pull of the wear of like a necklace will make it stretch just a little. So to accommodate for that stretch, I try to make the bracelet a little bit tight on me, especially if I'm going to make a bangle. I try to make it a little bit tight here. So that way, as it stretches, it won't make the bangle itself super big here when I actually wear it. So just be aware of that. Alright, so now let's talk about how many beads you will need to complete your project. When you start to figure out your beads, there's a very simple rule of thumb. The rule of thumb is to take the finished length of your piece. So say I want to make a 7-inch bracelet. I would take 7 and multiply it by the initial amount of beads in the first round of my tube. Excuse me. So your initial round is just going to be this very beginning of your tube. This one is 6 beads around. So I would multiply 7 times 6, and that would equal 42 inches of strung beads. So what that means is once I have my thread onto my bobbin, I will literally need to thread on 42 inches of beads to be able to make, you know, a 7.5 inch bracelet. So you will want to make sure that you do those easy multiplications, and it will kind of tell you. Now, a quick reference guide that I have on page 5 of your booklet is that for size 11 seed beads, you will need 6 inches of beads to make 1 inch of finished rope. And yes, I said that correctly. We'll take 6 inches of beads threaded onto your cord to make 1 inch of finished rope. That is approximately 18 beads per inch, so 18 size 11 seed beads. Now, if you're using size 8, which I'm going to be using today, you're going to need to string 5 inches of beads for every 1 inch of finished rope. This will mean you will be adding approximately 13 size 8 seed beads per inch. So if you want to get very technical and down to the line, you can take 13 beads per inch. So 13 times however, 13 times 5, okay, because I have to add on 5 inches. So 13 times 5, and then I would multiply that by my finished piece, and that will tell me. I know for me personally, for the size bracelet that I like to wear, it takes 600 beads. So I pretty much know if I thread on my 600 beads, I'm going to get the exact size rope that I want. If I have done it a little bit tight, like crocheted a little bit tight, it's completely okay because it'll stretch just a little bit. If you've done it loose and you are really seeing a good bit of thread, that's going to make it stretch even worse. So you'll want to work on your tension to make sure that you hold your tension correctly as you work on your piece. Now, since you know how many beads you're going to need, now you need to know how much thread that you are going to need to put on your bobbin to make your finished piece. Okay, so let's talk about how much thread we're going to need for our project. For the project that we will be using our bobbin and our cotton thread, the rule of thumb is it is going to take 1 yard of this thread to make 1 inch of finished crochet cord. Yes, you heard me right. 1 yard of this to make 1 inch of this. It's not quite a yard, but that's kind of, if you don't want to figure it out down to like the last little thing, that's going to be the easiest way to figure out your thread. If you want a concrete number, on page 5 of your workshop book, I say when using 80 seed beads, it takes approximately 34 inches of thread to do 1 inch of bead crochet. So for example, if I want to make an 8-inch bangle, first I multiply 8 times 34. That's going to equal 272 inches. I then divide that by 36 inches, so a yard. So that tells me I need 7.5 yards of thread to do an 8-inch bangle. Normally, I will add 1 to 2 more yards of thread on the bobbin itself to make sure that I have enough. That extra 1 to 2 yards is going to account for the beginning of my piece and the end of my piece, because you'll have thread on both ends. So be aware of that. And that is going to be your easiest way to figure out how much thread that you're going to need. So now let's talk about a bead crochet pattern. This is going to be on page 6 of your piece. Now, the thing about it is, for what we're going to do today, we're not going to be using any sort of pattern. We are going to pick up 6 beads, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but we're not going to be doing a genuine pattern like this, okay? You will see on page 6, and I have blown it up here for video purposes. This is the one I show on page 6. There's 4 things you need to know about a pattern. The first thing is going to be up here to the top right. This is going to tell you all about your pattern, your main thing that you need to know. One of the biggest things you need to be concerned about is on the second line, that's your circumference. Ours says 6. That lets me know that my first row is going to be 6 beads. So this 6 bead tube is going to make one this size. Now, the second thing you need to know is right below all these words, you'll see here I've got 3 boxes of colors. One is turquoise, one is green, and one is pink. Now, this is what I have designed it with, but you can do any color that you want. There is a number 80 next to the turquoise. That means I'm going to use 80 total turquoise beads, 161 total green beads, and 281 total pink beads. Now, what I personally do is I go ahead and I count out those beads and have them in little piles in front of me, because it will make the third part of your pattern easiest. The third part of your pattern is the list of beads that you are going to be threading on and how you are going to thread them on. To read the list of beads, you will actually read them starting at the top left, working down the column, and then going to the next column and working down that column until you have all the beads picked up for this repeat. So if you look, it will tell you rows per repeat. That means all these beads here that you're putting on is going to take up 69 rows and then 2 beads of the 70th row. So out of 87 rows, these beads here are going to take up 69 of those. So that is going to be what you want to pay attention to there. But like I said, for me, the easiest thing is to just go ahead, lay my beads out and thread them on. Just keep threading them on until I've ran out of beads. You have, the fourth thing is you have 3 different pictures here of your piece. This first one is what they call the draft. This is going to help you if you don't have this chart. You can pick it up by these here. I don't suggest you do that. I suggest you go by the chart because it's the easiest thing to do. The second thing is going to be, they call it the corrected. This is where, as a designer, you would design your piece on this middle one here. This allows you to put in your design that you want so that you can look at this simulation number 3 here. You can look at it and actually see what it's going to look like as you're sitting there designing it. So those are your 3 different pictures here on the left. So that kind of shows you a basic how to read a pattern. Now you'll notice there is a difference from your pattern on page 6 to 7. Page 6, or the page 7, is just a very simple chevron pattern, and it only has one little list of beads here. And it's a very, very simple list because this is only going to take up 4 rows and 2 beads of the 5th row. So again, I would go ahead and count out my beads and then just pick my repeats up until I have all of those picked up according to my chart here. So every one that you find is going to be different. The really great thing about patterns is no matter what language they are written in, you will basically, it's a universal look to the patterns, so you'll kind of know your circumference and how to thread on your beads, whether or not you can understand anything else from the pattern. So that's the really great thing about reading a pattern. So a few notes about the patterns from page 7. Number 1, both patterns I show in this section were made to fit an 8 inches of bead crochet rope. If completed, they would form a continuous bangle bracelet if you use a hidden join for your closing technique, which we will talk more about. Number 2, and I just talked about this, you will notice on the green pattern above, it has a lot fewer beads to thread on versus the pink pattern. This is because of the row repeats. If you look in the top right corner of the pattern, you will see that the line says rows per repeat 4 rows and 2 beads. This means that the beads listed in your chart will make up 4 rows of crochet and then an additional 2 beads. There are 2 easy ways to figure out the number of repeats you will need. The first is to take the number of rows, 84, and divide it by the number of repeats. This will tell you approximately how many times you will need to repeat the pattern of beads listed. The second easiest way is, like I said, simply count out the beads listed in your materials list and keep adding them in this order called for until you run out of beads. And let's see, number 3, I will let you guys read the number 3 and won't take up your time on that one. So one thing that was asked of me in our bead crochet workshop was if I want to design my own pattern, how do I do that? So if you look on the bottom of page 8 of your workshop packet, I actually tell you a website, J, just the letter J, Bead, B-E-A-D, .ch. That has a free software that you can download to make your own crochet patterns. The only thing that you will want to be concerned about is that since it's a free software, it doesn't allow you to actually save it in a format for most computers today, like a PDF format. So the easiest thing to do is to take a screenshot of your work, so that way you will get this from the screenshot. So you will have your completed pattern and not have to worry about saving it in some sort of funky thing that you've never heard of. So that's going to be the easiest way to use that free software. And again, it's great because it's completely free. It does take a little time to play with the software to figure it out completely, but once you figure it out, it's a great way to make your own bead crochet patterns. So let's go ahead now and let's get started with our bead crochet. Okay, so the first thing you'll want to do once you have your thread on your bobbin is to thread on your beads. For my example that I'm going to be using today, I'm going to be using an 8/0 nickel, an 8/0 gunmetal, a silver line black diamond, a jet, silver line crystal, and I think I put hematite up here twice. What else am I using? Oh, a white, a solid white. So it's going to be mainly blacks and grays, and this is where I would either use my big eye needle or my larger head needle, as I talked about earlier. You can see it there, but this, I would either use one of these needles to thread on all of my beads. And let me roll it out here so you can see. My thread is crinkly because I just undone this so I could show you, but you can see here I have, let me see if it will get in focus for me. Come on, there we go. You can see I have threaded it on nickel, black, gunmetal, silver line black diamond, silver line crystal, and white. That is my pattern. I just pick those beads up over and over and over again. So if you've never done any sort of crochet or bead crochet, the first thing you'll want to start out with is a slip knot. So I'm going to come near the end of my thread here and I'm going to just make a U shape. I'm going to take and I'm going to twist it so that it makes an X like this, almost like an hourglass. And then I'm going to take my 2 fingers here and I'm going to grab this side of the cord. So not the tail end side, but this side. So I'm just going to I'm going to grab it and I'm going to pull it so that it makes a little knot like this. And what's going to happen is when I pull the tail, it's going to pull that knot up to my bead crochet hook. And so that way I can continue to do my work. So I'll show you that one more time. People do it lots of different ways, but you make a U shape here near the end of your thread and you twist it to make an X shape. Then I'm going to use my thumb and my pointer finger to grab the right side, so the working thread, and I'm going to pull that thread. You can see there what it does, and again I'll put my hook in and pull it to where it brings it up to the top. So the first thing that you're going to do is a slip stitch, and this is really easy, but you want to really practice it before you go to town. Okay, so you wrap, it's like this. I'm going to wrap the cord one time. I'm going to pull that cord through the loop. Okay, so wrap the cord around one time and pull it through the loop. Wrap the cord one time, pull it through the loop. And you just want to chain and get the stitch, understand the stitch here. of your chain, because this is going to be the first row of your bead crochet. It's just simply wrapping the thread around and pulling it through the loop. So let me see here if I can kind of zoom in, or I don't know what the deal is here. Why it's, there we go. So you can see here all of my little chain stitches that I just did. Now once you have the hang of that, you can simply take your needle out and pull it, and it'll come right out for you, and then that way you can actually start your crochet. So again, I'm going to make that U, twist it to make the X here, and then I'm going to grab a hold of my working thread and pull it through, so that now I can start my stitch. So I'm going to readjust the camera so that you can get a better look at how I'm going to do the crochet. So to get started with my crochet, I'm going to do about 2 slip stitch. That's just going to give me enough to kind of hold on to as I work. Now I'm going to pull my first 6 beads down to where I'm working. And the biggest thing you're going to have to learn is how to hold your thread. For me personally, I lay it over my hand, I go behind my pinky, in front of my next 2 fingers, and then over, so it looks like this. This is the easiest way for me to hold it, because it allows me to hold my finger way back here, so I have the tension that I need to do my stitch. So that is just my way of holding it, but that's going to be one of your hard things, is figuring out how to do it best for yourself. So I'm going to pull a bead down, my first bead. I'm going to wrap the thread around, and I'm going to pull through the loop. Now when I pull it through the loop, I don't want to make a big or tight stitch here, because if you make a tight stitch, you're going to have trouble in the next row. So don't do this super tight. So I've dropped down my next bead. I'm going to wrap the thread, and I'm going to pull it through the next loop. Okay, drop my bead, wrap the thread around the cord, pull it through. Okay, I'm going to do this till I have 6 beads. And again, I'm not doing it tight, I'm doing it very loose. So I drop the black one down and bring it through, and then drop the nickel down, wrap it, and pull it through. So that now I have 6 beads here on my first row. Now we are going to do a little bit of flip work. So I'm going to just flip the piece to where the last stitch I've got on here is near the bottom of my cord, or of my hook, and then my first one here is near the top. So if you look right here, you can see that there are V shapes along the back of your beadwork. Under this very first bead, we want to stick the hook under both of those pieces. So if you have a little bit of a hard time getting it under there, this is why an awl comes in really handy, because you can kind of stick it under there and open it up just a little bit to make room to get your crochet hook. So I'm going under both of those threads under that first bead there. So you can see both of those threads are there. Now, holding my tail down, I am then going to take my working thread, and this is where you feel like you literally need 10 hands, because I'm now going to wrap it, and I'm going to pull it through under all 3 loops. So the 2 loops and the loop that I have on my actual hook here. So I'm going to pull it through 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now the first bead and the last bead are connected together. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring down 6 more of my beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have my beads here. Now this is where a lot of people in my workshop got confused with, we're going to take the needle and go under that very same bead again. So that white bead, that very first bead, I'm going to pop under that same bead, and I'm going to turn that bead to my right. I'm a right-handed beader and stitcher, so I'm going to turn the bead to the right. I'm going to drop down a white bead, wrap the thread, and I'm going to pull it through both loops. So the loop that I went under and the loop that is currently on my hook. Okay. So now you see my first one and then the second one of the white. So now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to stick it under the clear one here. And again, I'm going to turn the bead down to my right. Drop a clear bead, wrap, and pull it through both loops. So I'm pulling it through the loop under the silver bead and the loop that's on my hook. So pull through and pull through. Okay. Now I'm going under the black diamond bead, and again I'm just going to, and this is why I said if you did it really tight, this is where it's going to make it really hard on yourself, so don't do it tight. So I popped under it, and I'm going to take and I'm going to turn that bead down to my right because I'm right-handed. If you're left, you're turning it to the left. So I'm going to drop the bead. I'm going to pull the thread through both loops. So 1, 2, and there. Okay. Now I've got my gunmetal colored bead, so I'm going to push under the gunmetal bead. Make sure to turn the bead to the right. Drop your bead, wrap, and pull it through both loops. Now I'm going to push under the black bead here. Turn the black bead to the right, drop my black bead, wrap the thread, and I'm going to pull it through both loops that are here on the piece. So 1, 2. Okay, I have one more bead. That's my nickel color bead. So I'm going to stick the crochet hook there under the bead. Turn the bead to the right, make it lay down like a donut. Drop your bead down, wrap, and pull it through both loops. So 1, 2. Okay, so now I have, and I'm going to take this out here. Whoops. Hold it back up where it was. Okay, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This bead here, this is the first white one I put on, so this one is actually downward a little bit. I guess I should push this up just a little. But you can see here now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's my first 6 beads, or the second 6 beads I should say that I added. So now I'm going to grab my next 6, and again it's easier to pull 6 up at a time. I'm going to okay, and it's really important. You can see right here there looks like there's a big hole. That will not be there because now we're going to go under our white bead, our second white bead. We're going to lay it down like a donut. Drop the white bead down here. I'm going to wrap the thread and I'm going to pull it through both loops. So 1 and 2. And that's going to pull those rows together closer so we don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, let me get me, oops, sorry guys. Let me get me some more thread pulled out here. Okay. So now I'm going under this silver line crystal color. That's this one here. I'm going to go under the bead. I'm going to turn the bead to the right. Drop the bead down. Wrap the thread. And then I'm going to pull it through both loops that are on there. So 1, 2. Now to the black diamond. I'm going to stick it under the black diamond, and that black diamond popped to the right. I did not have to do anything to it. So now I drop the black diamond, wrap it, and I'm going to pull it through both loops that are on the base there. Okay, and right now it's looking like a hot mess, and until you get it going, it's going to. So I've turned the gunmetal, I'm dropping my bead down here, wrap, and I'm going to pull it through both loops. So I know I have 2 beads left on the base, so I'm going to go under the black bead. I'm going to turn the black bead to the right, drop my bead, wrap, and I'm going to pull it through both loops. Okay, so my last bead of the row is my nickel, so I'm going to drop it under the nickel. Make sure to pop that bead to the right, and again, if you're a left-handed beader, it's going to the left. I'm going to drop the nickel, pull it through, and I've got that part. Okie dokie. Now at this point, I can just continue my rows. And if you see something here and it kind of looks funny to you and you can't figure out what you've done, the easiest thing to do is to simply, like, see these 3 white beads here and that doesn't look right. I'm going to simply pull these beads out. Okay, there we go. And so I can look to see if I did anything wrong. And I actually did not do anything wrong there. So, whoops. And I have dropped a stitch. So I can see my little loop right here. This is my little tiny loop to the inside. So I can grab it and pull it up. So now I don't have to start over. I found my little stitch here and I can keep going. So let me fix what I just pulled apart here. So I'm going under the gunmetal, turn the bead. Let me rearrange my thread here. There we go. Okay, turn the bead. I've dropped my gunmetal. I'm going to pull it through both. Okay, now I'm going to my white, turn that bead, drop it, wrap, and pull it through both my loops. So 1 and 2. Okay, next is my silver. Whoops. Let me just grab the one here like I'm supposed to. There we go. I'm going to turn it, drop it, wrap it, and pull it through both. Black diamond, push through, turn the bead to the right, drop your new bead, wrap, pull through both loops. The gunmetal, push through, turn it, drop it, wrap it, pull it through. The black, again, push under the black, turn the bead to the right, drop your black bead, wrap it, pull it through. Last one for the row is my nickel. Push it, put it under, turn it, drop it, wrap it, and pull it through. So now you can see very well here now. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My 6 beads are here. And I can just continue threading on my beads here. And at this point, I know I've got my rows done. So I don't have to kind of worry about picking up my 2 beads or dropping my 6 beads at a time. I can feel comfortable with dropping all of those down. So again, I'm going under the white, turn the bead, drop your white bead down, wrap, and pull through. The silver, turn it, drop it, wrap it, pull it through. The gunmetal or the black diamond here, I'm going to push under, I'm going to turn the bead, drop it. Whoop. Oh, come on, just the one bead here. Drop it, wrap it, pull it through. This is, to me, the biggest thing is understanding this stitch right here. actually in my bead crochet workshops that I do here in the store, and I wish I could do this for all of you, is I actually start the piece for them, so that way they watch me start it and then they can just practice this stitch right here, because this one little stitch is going to carry you through the whole project, because you're constantly going to be just going under the bead, turning it, dropping it, wrapping it, and pulling it through. This is literally the whole thing, just over and over and over. And once you get your rhythm and you understand what you're doing, this will go very quickly for you, and it won't take too awfully long to start to be able to see your pattern that you should have going, that spiral finish. So I'm going to continue doing my crochet here until I get a couple of inches done, so that you can see what your piece should look like at this point. Like I said, until you get the tube established like I have here, it's going to look like a hot mess. And I'll be honest with you, the first couple of ones that I have some people do, unless they have just done the beginning immaculately, is to go ahead and put the end caps on it like I did in this sample. So that way, if you've started and it's a hot mess, you can cover that hot mess up and have a nice finished piece. So I'm going to continue going, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so you can see now I have several inches of my crochet rope finished, and you can really see that spiral that is taking place with your beadwork. And if you'll look, all of my beads are laid down flat like a donut. The ones here up top are laid up like a tire, and that's what you want, because this is when we put the hook through, that's why we turn it, so it will lay down like it's supposed to. So I wanted to just tell you a couple of things really quick before I continue on this one. First thing is, sometimes when you put your needle in there or your hook in there, that bead will automatically flop over and you don't have to turn it, and that's fine. The other thing I kind of wanted to show you though, that some people had problems with at the retreat, sometimes their bead would actually stick out in front of the beads here. And what's happening when that happens is, you want to make sure, and I'm going to hold it like several directions here, but if you'll look, my crochet thread that I'm working with now is behind the bead that I just put it through. So you can see that there. I'm just started it through the nickel color, so it's kind of behind the bead here. So that way, when you come through and you wrap it, you know, and pull it through both loops there, and see, like I just dropped that stitch, so that's perfect, because now I can pull it out. And the good thing is I have a big enough loop here where I can pick it back up and not worry about it. But you want to make sure that it's there, because if it comes down like this and it gets under the bead like it is here, what's going to happen is this bead is going to stick out to the side. So you want to make sure that it's actually behind your bead like it is here. So that way, when you bring the bead down and you wrap it and you pull it through, it sits up exactly like it needs to be done. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue with this one, but I am going to go ahead and start another one with brighter, bolder colors. So that way, and I'm going to use a different camera direction, I think, possibly, so that way you can see. If you couldn't see it good with these colors, maybe you'll be able to see it good with the brighter colors. Okay, so before I go on to my next project, I want to show you, I need to use the needle or the hook from my first project. So the easiest way to kind of store and carry this is to use a clip, like a paper clip, and I have pulled my little loop here out, and I'm going to thread it onto the paper clip and pull the thread tight. So when I do, that is going to hold that stitch for me, so I don't have to worry about any of my beads actually, or the stitch loosening up and coming apart. So now I can just simply take and roll this up, close it, and I'm good to go and ready to start my next piece. So my next piece, I'm using 6 new colors of beads here. So I wanted just for you to see the beads. This is the galvanized turquoise, the matte peach coral, galvanized pale lilac, opaque luster dark beige, metallic airy blue, and the last one here is dusty cedar. So I already have my hook ready to go here, and I'm going to pull up my first 6 beads. So 2, 4, 5, 6. Okay, here's my first 6. So we're ready to chain stitch with these 6 beads. So I'm going to pull down 1 bead, wrap it, grab it, and pull it through. Okay, and you can see here, remember to do a loose stitch. So drop the blue down, wrap it, grab it, and then I'm going to pull it through. Drop a bead, wrap it, grab it, pull it through. Okay, drop it, wrap it, grab it, pull it through. Drop it, wrap it, pull it through, and 1 more. Drop it, wrap it, grab it, and pull it through. So now you can see I have my 6 beads on here. Now this is where we have to turn our piece. So you can see on the back my V shapes here, and I'm turning it to where the stitch I'm currently using is down here at the bottom. And here at the top, I'm going to go under the V of this first bead. And now remember, I'm going to under both threads here. So I'm going to take the needle, I'm going to get under both of them. And this can be a tricky part here, getting under both of those threads, but you can do it. Okay, let me see, did I get under there? Okay, I'm going to have to get my, give me 1 second. Okay, so I had to use my tulip awl to help me get under my 2 threads there. So now I'm going to hold the tail down, and I'm going to wrap, grab, and I'm going to pull it through all 3 loops. So the 2 loops here, and then the 1 loop there. So I'm going to pull through all 3, just like that, so that I only have 1 loop actually on the hook. Now I'm going to bring the next 6 beads up. So 2, 4, 6. Okay. We are going to go under the first bead, turn it to the right. Whoop, let me get my new bead here. Drop the new bead down, wrap, grab, and pull it through both loops that are on there. Okay. The next one is blue, so I'm going to push it under, turn it, drop it, wrap, grab, and pull through both loops. Okay, go under the next one, turn it, drop it, wrap, grab, pull through. My next one is turquoise, so I'm going to turn it, drop it, wrap it, grab it, and pull it through both loops. Now under the purple, turn it, drop it, wrap it, grab it, pull it through. Now 1 more here, turn it, drop it, grab it, and pull it through. So now I have my 6 beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got kind of a big opening here, but that is where I'm going to be closing it right now, because I'm going to put it under the first bead and turn it, get my next 6 beads here. Okay, drop it, wrap it, grab it, pull it through. Now, then we just continue our stitching. Put it through the blue, turn it, drop it, wrap it, pull it through. Now the beige, turn it, drop it, wrap it, pull it through. Turn it, drop it, wrap it, pull it through. Okay. The next one is my pink here. Okay, so now if I pull it down like this, I can see my 6 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm ready to continue with this piece. Okay, so I have several inches of it done, and now you can see the colors that we actually started on this one. Now that we actually have this one going, we need to talk about finishings, how to finish off your pieces. So here's one that I've been working on. This is using various colors of purples and mauves, and basically with this one, what I've done is on the last stitch, and I'll pull it out here so you can see it. Let me pull the thread so you'll kind of know what I've done. Okay, so here was my last stitch right here. Let me pull this thread back out so you can see what I've done here and how to finish it. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so I pulled a couple of stitches out, and that's okay. Alright, so let me stitch in these last 2. So I have my loop here. So I'm going to stitch in these last couple of beads here that I've got going. Alright, so on this last bead, once I drop it down and pull it through, I'm going to pull it through, and I'm just going to continue to pull it all the way through. Okay, so right now the last row should sit up like wheels, and all the other ones should be laid down like donuts. So I'm going to go back here to the beginning of my piece, and this is where that thicker needle is going to come in handy, because I'm going to thread that needle, and then I want to take and I'm going to stick it through the center of the tube. You never want to go through any beads here, just the tube. So I'm not coming out of any beads whatsoever. I'm just going to pull this through because we want to get rid of this thread. And again, I'm just stitching it through the tube. I'm not adding, you know, going through any beads, and that's your biggest thing. Don't want to go through any. Okay. And now I'm going to take a pair of cutters, and I'm going to cut this thread. Then we're going to do the same thing on this end, except for we want to use this end to actually connect, so that way it will be a seamless join. So let me get the needle threaded here on this end. Okay, so I'm going to stitch this thread down through the tube. But then when I come back up, I want to come back up out of the last bead that I stitched through, which is going to be this one right here. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here, so maybe you can see what I'm going to be doing a little bit better. So I'm just going to come up through, and this is actually the only bead that you will be coming through the bead itself. So I want to, okay, so I'm going to come out of that one bead. And like I said, this is the only time you're ever stitch through an actual bead. Okay, so I'm coming out of that bead, and now I'm going to take the two ends and I'm going to find that same color bead, and I'm going to kind of put the pieces together just like this. Okay, so my thread is currently coming out of this purple bead here. So I'm going to go under the bridge of the purple bead there. Okay, now I'm going to come up to the white bead here, and I'm going to go under the bridge that's to the left of that bead, so right here, so that when I pull it, what's going to happen is it's going to cause that bead to lay like a donut now instead of like a tire. So now I'm going to go under that same color bead on the bottom here. Okay, now under the next color bead here. To the left of this one. Under the thread of the next one here. And you want to try and be careful not to pierce your threads. Okay, I'm going to go under the thread to the top one. Keep turning it here. Go under the thread for the next one. Then under the thread here to the left. Okay. And I'm going to kind of pull these back a little bit so I can see. So I'm going under the next color. Kind of pull this out here. So it's all going to be together. Okay. And then this one, got to pull back out. There we go. So then under that first one and this one. So now, if you look, you have a seamless piece. You can't tell where it started and where it stopped. So now, if it looks kind of funky right here and you don't like it, simply pull it back out and redo it. So see, mine looks kind of funky right here, so I'm just going to pull it back. Okay, so now that I'm coming out of that one bead, I'm going to put them together like this so that I can go ahead and figure out, you know, get them side by side like they need to be. So I'm coming out of the last bead that I went through here. So I'm going to come to the next color bead, which is going to be this milky color, and I'm going to go under the thread here above the top of that bead. Now, my bead here is laid out like, oh, let me get back down here. There we go. It's laid like my tire. So I want to go through the thread to the left of that bead. So if I kind of put it like this and I stick my needle through, I would be going under the thread there to the left. This is going to make it lay down like I want it to. And I'm going to pull that thread. Now I'm going to go to the next color bead, which is going to be this, this color here. So I'm going to go right under the thread. turn it. And now here at the top, I'm going to go through the thread to the left side. And you want to make sure not to pierce the thread. Okay. My next color is this matte color here. So I'm going to go under the thread. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay. Now up here at the top, I'm going to go to the same color, but I'm going to go to the left of that bead so it will lay it down like a donut, like I want it to. My next one is my milky color, so I go under the thread. Then I go to the left of the thread here, the same color. My next color is this matte one, so I'm going to go under the thread here at the bottom. And then to the left of the bead here at the top, so that way it makes it lay down like I want it to. Okay, I'm coming back to where I was here, so my next color is this one, so I'm going to go under it. And then to the left of this one, so that now I have a seamless join, and without this here you can't really tell where I started and where I stopped on the piece. So now basically what I'm going to do is I want to take and I'm going to stick the needle through the tube to the other side. Okay, so from where I'm at here, I'm going to stick the needle through to the other side of the tube. I am not going to go through any beads. I'm just stitching it through the tube. And I'm pretty much going to do this all the way until I've used up a good bit of my thread. Just sticking it through the center of the tube here to get to the other side. And if your first seamless join doesn't look pretty, you can do it over again, or just own it and keep going with it. So if you notice that you're coming out of a bead like I am here, I'm going to pull it back out so that I'm not coming out of that bead. And so I'm just going to keep doing this, like I said, until I've used up a good bit of my thread. Okay, so if you do your bracelet and you decide that you've just got a hot mess. So see, like right here, this is the beginning of one of my pieces, and honestly, I don't like it, and it would not look good trying to do the seamless join like I did here. So I'm going to put end caps on that. And you basically want to do it the same way that we started this one. We're going to thread our needle on, and then we're going to take this thread and run it up through the tube. Now I've gone ahead and I've done this on the other side, so that way it is finished out. And there we go. Okay, I'm just going to run it through, and now I'm going to trim this thread. Okay, so I've got my 12 millimeter end caps and my E6000 glue here. So I'm going to take the glue and I'm going to run it through, and I'm going to put a good bit of glue here to the inside of the cap, so you can see it's a good bit of glue. Now all you have to do is take the end of your crochet piece and slide it in. But when you slide it in, make sure to push it all the way in, and if some of the glue comes out like it's done here, you can take a paper towel and wipe it off. The good thing about using the E6000 glue is it's going to take a little while for it to dry, up to 24 hours, so you can get that glue off pretty easily. But you're going to do this to both sides so that once you have it on both sides, this is what your piece will look like, and it's completely dried. Then you will be able to take these ends and put your put chain or clasp or whatever you want on it to finish it out to be either a necklace or a bracelet. Okay, so I do apologize if you heard some commotion or beeping at the end of that last segment, but our mail carrier came in and did not know that I was filming, so what do you do? But one of the things I did want to tell you about the finishing of your piece, if you use the ends, the glue-on end caps like I showed you at the very end, you'll want to make sure that you leave those for about 12 to 24 hours to dry. I normally will put my end caps on today, and then I'll come back tomorrow and I'll finish off this piece. That way you know you have a nice permanent hole with your glue. I would not use any other glue besides the E6000 glue, just because you know that you are going to get a nice permanent finish with that glue, and it's not going to turn your beads colors. If you try to use a super glue, what's going to happen is if you get too much, it's going to turn the beads around where you put that glue white. I personally just like the seamless finish so that I can just slide it on and go about my day. But you do what is most comfortable for you. Now, if you want to find some really great information on bead crochet, like things I didn't cover today or different ways to finish, I highly recommend this book called Bead Crochet Jewelry by Candace Sexton. Sexton. It's a really good step-by-step crochet book where she shows you step-by-step how to do the crochet. She shows you some different endings, and she gives you some good projects in the book. So it's a really nice book, and the good thing about it is at the very end, it actually has a DVD where you see her actually in action showing some of the things from this book. So again, I highly recommend this one if you want a step-by-step guide. Another really good one is called Bead Crochet Jewelry. This is by a mother-daughter team. Now, with this book, it's not necessarily a step-by-step how-to as with the Bead Crochet Basics. It's mainly projects. And she has some really neat projects in it, but it's not going to show you step-by-step how to do some of these pieces. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're looking. On page 15 of your Bead Crochet Workshop book, I actually give a few more different things. One is a book you can find on Amazon called Crafting Conundrums, Puzzles and Patterns for the Bead Crochet Artist by Ellie Baker and Susan Goldstein. The thing with this book, to me, it's an actual textbook. And I think that's how Amazon sells it, is a digital textbook. It's a very, very in-depth look at how to design patterns for bead crochet. It's not a simple go-to thing like I showed you actually in the booklet. It's very, very in-depth. So if you really get into it and want to do your own designs, I highly recommend that book. It is on the pricey side because I believe when I purchased it from Amazon, the digital version was around $35. So it is a little bit pricey. Another really great resource for you is a website called AnnBenson.com. Ann has really kind of been around for years doing bead crochet. She has some wonderful videos and step-by-step tutorials and kits on how to do the bead crochet. I'll link on page 15 of your workbook. I link to her Etsy shop on there where she has some really great kits that you can check out if you want to get kind of more in-depth with bead crochet. Now, one more thing that I wanted to recommend to you was a neat little tool. The tool is by a company called Studio Dax, D-A-X. It's a little wooden tool spool that has 5 loops on the top. And when you order it from Studio Dax on Etsy, Your tool comes with a couple of little clips as well. This little tool is supposed to help you start bead crochet really easily. The CD that comes with it has 3 different PDFs on it on how to use the jig, how to break seed beads, and creating a 6 bead around rope. So I personally have not tried it yet, but they highly raved about it in one of my bead crochet workshops. So this is always a really, really great reference for you if you have a hard time starting the bead crochet. And it can be found in etsy.com/shop, SHOP/studio, STUDIO, DAX, DAX. So Studio DAX. So again, if you have a hard time starting the bead crochet, you may want to check out this nifty little tool right here. So I hope that you guys now have a really good understanding of basic bead crochet, and that you will continue to practice and really learn the craft of bead crochet, because it is a lot of fun. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me right below here where my email address is, so that you can see that and get in contact with me. I will try to answer any questions that I can about this workshop box. But I thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for your purchase of this bead crochet workshop. Bye!